benefit-oriented? Are you tired of feeling stuck? Imagine a life where peace is your constant companion and every obstacle has a clear path to resolution. This video reveals Joel Goldsmith's revolutionary approach to prayer, not just as a spiritual practice, but as a practical, actionable tool to manifest real solutions in your life. All right, fam? Let's just get one thing straight right out the gate. This ain't your grandma's kneel by the bed and beg kind of prayer. We're not talking about sending a wish list up to some sky daddy and hoping he's in a good mood. That whole game, it's a total crapshoot. It leaves you hanging, wondering if you did it right, if you're even on the list. So what's the move? What if I told you there's a secret source to prayer that Joel uncovered? A way to pray that isn't about you asking for a single thing, but about you getting your own self out of the way so the universe, that infinite, all-powerful presence, can just do its thing through you. We're talking about a prayer so next level, it doesn't solve problems, it dissolves them. It makes the problem itself look like a mirage on a hot highway. It's the ultimate cheat code for life's garbage. Stick around, because we're about to dive deep into Goldsmith's secret prayer, the ultimate problem solver. And I'm going to let you in on exactly how this thing works and why you probably haven't been doing it. But here's the kicker. What if the secret wasn't in the words you say at all, but in finding the one spot inside you where words don't even exist? If this hits home for you, if you're ready to tap into this infinite flow, then do me a solid. Like the video, drop a comment with the number 777 if you're vebbin with this, and subscribe so you don't miss the deep dive. Let's get into it. Let's get right into it. The first thing we got to do, the absolute non-negotiable first step, is to ditch the entire concept of beggin and pleadin. I mean, let's be real for a second. Think about how we usually pray. Our backs are against the wall. The bills are piling up, a relationship is on the rocks, the doctor's report came back scary. So what do? We get on our mental knees, we clasp our hands, and we start negotiating. We start sending out these frantic, desperate memos to God. Please, if you just fix this one thing, I promise I'll be better. I'll go to church more, I'll be nicer, I'll never ask for anything again. Sound familiar? We're treating God like a celestial vending machine that just ate our last dollar. We're shaking it, pleading with it, maybe even giving it a good kick, hoping our snack of choice will finally drop. But here's the cold, hard truth that Joel laid out. That entire approach is rooted in a complete lie. It's based on the belief that there's a separation. It says that you over here are in a mess and God, way over there, has the solution but might be withholding it. So you gotta beg enough, cry enough, or use the right magic words to convince him to finally send the goods your way. That kind of prayer doesn't affirm power. It affirms powerlessness. It doesn't build faith, it reinforces fear. You're starting from a position of, I am lacking, and you're just emphasizing that lack with every single word. You're basically just telling the universe, over and over again, I don't have this, I am sick, I am broke, I am alone. And guess what the universe, which is pure consciousness, has to reflect back at you? More of the I don't have, more of the sickness, more of the loneliness. You're not solving the problem, you're feeding it. You're giving it all your energy and attention. Goldsmith's secret flips the script entirely. It says that real prayer isn't an act of asking for something you don't have. It's an act of realizing and acknowledging what is already eternally true. It's moving from a state of I hope to a state of I know. You see, if God is infinite, and if that infinite presence is the very substance of your being, then what could possibly be missing? The solution isn't something that has to travel from point A to point B. It's already present, woven into the fabric of the situation, because God is the fabric of the situation. So instead of going to prayer with a shopping list, you go to prayer to get still. You shut down the frantic chatter of the mind that's listing all the reasons why you're doomed. You consciously withdraw your faith from the appearance of the problem and you place it quietly and firmly on the invisible, ever-present reality of God, you stop talking and you start listening. You aren't begging for a check in the mail. You're abiding in the conscious awareness that the source of all supply is your source, right here, right now. You aren't pleading for a healing. You're resting in the truth that your true being, the I am that you are, is untouched by any form of discord or disease. This isn't denial. This is going to a level of truth so deep that the surface problem simply can't survive there. It's like turning on a light. You don't have to fight the darkness. It just vanishes. So if we're not begging, what in the world are we actually doing? This is where most folks get lost, because the old model is so ingrained. We think if we're not actively sending up an order, then we're just being lazy, like we're not doing our part. But that's where the magic is. This secret prayer is less about talking and everything about tuning. Think about it like this. You've got an old-fashioned radio. The music, all the songs, the news, the ball game, it's all already in the room with you. It's filling the airwaves right now. But if your dial is set to 98.7 and the good stuff is broadcasting on 101.1, all you're going to get is static, right? Maybe a little bit of a bleed through, a hint of a guitar riff. But it's distorted, faint, and frustrating. Your problem, that thing that's got you all twisted up, that's the static. That's the noise of being tuned to the wrong station. Now, what do you do when you've got static on the radio? You don't lean into the speaker and start yelling at it. You don't beg the radio to please play a better song. And you definitely don't just sit there and accept the static as the final, unchangeable reality. No, you get quiet for a second. You stop focusing on the noise. You gently, intentionally reach for the dial and you start turning it. You're making a subtle inner adjustment, listening for the moment the signal clears and the music comes through, loud and pure. That dial, turning, that's this prayer. It's an inner, conscious adjustment of your own awareness. You're shifting your focus away from the blaring noise of the problem, the fear, the lack, the pain, and you're tuning your consciousness to a different frequency altogether, the frequency of harmony, of wholeness, of the ever-present solution. You're not creating the music is already there, broadcasted by the infinite. You're just getting your receiver, your own mind, aligned with it. This is why all the begging was such a waste of energy. It was like you were screaming at the static, giving all your attention to the very thing you didn't want, which only made you a better receiver for more static. Yelling at the sky from a place of fear and lack is just you confirming that you're tuned to station limitation. This work, Goldsmith's secret, is the gentle, firm act of turning the dial within. You might use a sacred word, or a moment of silence, or just a conscious release of the fearful thoughts. You're not asking for the music to start. You're listening for the music that never stopped. You're shifting from being a broadcaster of your troubles to becoming a receiver of God's grace. The solution was never not there. It was saturating the room the whole time. You were just tuned into the wrong channel, convinced the static was the only song playing. This act of tuning, this inner adjustment, brings us face to face with the single biggest obstacle in this entire work, the thinker. We have to get brutally honest about who or what is actually holding the dial in the first place. We walk around our whole lives convinced that we are this character, this collection of thoughts, memories, opinions, and reactions. We think the voice in our head is the captain of the ship. We believe the me that worries about the bills, that nurses old grudges, that plans its day, that feels afraid. We think that's the real, authentic self. And so, when that me encounters a problem, it does the only thing it knows how to do. It thinks harder. It obsesses. It replays the past. It projects fears into the future. It analyzes. It strategizes. It frets. It's like that me is a hamster on a wheel, sprinting furiously, believing that if it just runs a little faster, It'll finally get somewhere. But here's the cosmic kicker that flips this whole thing on its head. That thinker, that frantic hamster, is not the real you. It's not the I am. That's just the instrument of the human scene, the computer running a very limited, fear-based program. It's the part of you that is tuned to the static. And the fundamental error, the root of all our suffering, is when we misidentify ourselves as that thinker. We believe its stories. We feel its fears as if they are ultimate truth. We think its limitations are our own. So when we try to pray from that level, it's a total contradiction. It's like the problem itself is trying to find the solution. It's the static trying to tune into the music. It can't be done. Goldsmith's secret prayer requires a radical shift in identity. It demands that you, for a moment, step back from the thinker. You have to become the silent, aware space in which the thinking is happening. You are not the thoughts. You are the awareness of the thoughts. You are not the fear, you are the consciousness witnessing the fear. This is the most profound and practical step. When you can rest as that awareness, you have effectively taken the dial away from the frantic, problem-focused mind. The thinker is the one who was holding the dial firmly on station stet Ike, convinced it was the only station. When you realize you are the one who can observe the thinker, you are free to turn the dial. This is the core of the inner work. It's not about stopping your thoughts through brute force. It's about ceasing to give them your allegiance. It's about noticing the thought that says, "I'm broke," and instead of diving into the movie of what that means, you simply acknowledge, there is a thought of lack appearing. You see it as a cloud passing in the sky of your awareness, not as the sky itself. This creates a crack in the illusion. In that space, in that pause between the thought and your identification with it, you find the real you. And that real you, that pure I am, is already one with the infinite. It's already tuned to the music. It doesn't need to think its way to a solution, because it is the very embodiment of the solution. The problem was never a real thing out in the world. It was always just the thinker's interpretation of it. Now, if that's true, if the real you is this aware presence, already one with the infinite, then the entire game changes in a way that's almost too simple to grasp. It means the solution, the answer, the healing, the supply. It isn't something that has to be manufactured or shipped in from a distant location or earned through some kind of spiritual performance review. It's already in the room. This is the ultimate secret. The one that makes this prayer a form of effortless grace instead of a laborious task. The music is already on the air. The power is already flowing through the wires. The answer is already present, inherent within the situation itself, because God is the substance and reality of the situation. Think about it like this. You walk into a dark room fumbling, stubbing your toe, unable to find your keys. The problem is real on a relative level. You can't see you're in pain, you're frustrated. The old prayer, the begging prayer, would be you standing in that darkness, crying out, "Please, oh please, someone bring me a light. I'll be so good, I promise. Just send me a flashlight." But the secret prayer, the one we're talking about, is the simple, quiet, internal act of realizing there's a light switch on the wall. You don't have to create the electrical grid. You don't have to build the power plant. The entire capacity for light is already wired into the room waiting. Your only job is to reach out and flip the switch. That's what this inner tuning is. You're flipping the switch from the consciousness of problem to the consciousness of presence. You're moving from being a person in a dark room to being the awareness that knows the light switch is right there. The darkness never had any power of its own. It was just the temporary absence of the light that was always available. In the same way, your problem, be it financial, physical, or relational, is like that darkness. It seems overwhelming and solid until the light of this spiritual understanding floods the room. The light doesn't fight the darkness, it just reveals what was always there. The answer was in the room the whole time, hidden not by some external force, but by your own focus on the absence of light. This is why you can stop striving. You can stop trying to figure it out with the same mind that created the confusion. The pressure is off. The infinite doesn't need you to solve the puzzle. The puzzle is an illusion. Your work is to abide, to consciously rest as that aware presence. And in that abiding, you become a transparency through which the intelligence that formed the universe can reveal the solution that is already present. It might come as a sudden intuition, a new idea, a surprising opportunity, or a tangible healing. But it will feel less like something you accomplished and more like something you allowed. You allowed the light that was already in the room to be revealed. You stopped telling the story of the darkness and tuned into the eternal broadcast of light. Continuing from the realization that the answer, like the light in a dark room, is already present. So if the light is already wired in and the answer is already in the room, what's left for us to do? This is where we can finally understand our actual job in all of this. And it's probably the most liberating piece of the whole puzzle. Our entire function boils down to one simple, critical action: get your boot off the hose. That's it. That's the whole job. Picture a garden hose with water flowing through it. That water is the infinite flow of life, of spirit, of supply, of intelligence. It's constantly pouring forth, wanting to water your garden, to nourish your life, to bring forth beauty and fruit. But you're standing there, wondering why your lawn is brown and dying, why nothing is blooming, why you're so parched and thirsty. You're praying, "Please, God, send water!" And all the while, you're looking everywhere but down at your own feet, where your big, heavy boot is planted squarely on the hose, kinking it, cutting off the very flow you're begging for. Your boot is everything that comes from misidentifying with the thinker. Your boot is your frantic worrying, your obsessive controlling, your deep-seated belief in lack, your rehearsing of old hurts, your insistence on figuring it all out by yourself. It's the tension in your body, the knot in your stomach, the white-knuckle grip you have on how you think your life should look. That's the boot, and it's creating a total blockage. The water is there. The pressure from the source is immense and constant, but not a drop can get through because you're standing in the way. So the secret prayer isn't about adding anything. It's not a new, more sophisticated form of begging. It's the conscious, deliberate act of lifting your boot. It's the inner sigh of release. It's the moment you consciously decide to stop trying to control the flow and instead just get out of the way. You do this by turning within, by becoming the silent awareness, by withdrawing your faith from the problem and placing it on the presence. You're not doing the work of the water. You're just removing the obstruction that was preventing the water from doing its work. You're not healing the body. You're lifting the boot of fear and judgment so that the innate, intelligent life force that already animates the body can flow without hindrance. You're not manifesting money. You're lifting the boot of the belief in lack so that the infinite substance of the universe can express itself as your experience. This is the ultimate surrender, but not a surrender to defeat. It's a surrender to a higher intelligence, a greater power that you are one with. It's like finally letting go of the steering wheel you were clutching for dear life, realizing you were only ever steering yourself into ditches anyway. You shift from being the frantic general trying to manage a losing battle to being a clear, open channel. You stop focusing on the dry, brown lawn, the problem, and you focus entirely on the simple, profound action of lifting your foot. The moment you do, you'll hear the gurgle, and then the rush as the water that was always there flows freely. And you'll understand that your only job was to stop blocking the grace that was forever seeking to express itself as you. And when that flow finally rushes in, unobstructed, when you've gotten your frantic self out of the way and are just abiding as that clear channel, you have the ultimate realization. You look back at the problem that had you so tied up in knots, the thing that felt like a solid, immovable mountain in your path, and you see it for what it truly was, a ghost. It was a phantom, a convincing one, sure. It had weight, it had texture, it had the power to keep you up at night and tie your stomach in knots. But it was never a real, substantial thing with power of its own. It was a projection of the untuned mind, a shadow cast by your own boot on the hose, a story told by the thinker you mistakenly thought you were. This is the final piece of the puzzle, the one that seals the deal and sets you free from the cycle of problems forever. The problem wasn't a real entity that needed to be solved, fought, or conquered. It was just a symptom. It was the static on the radio, the darkness in the room, the kink in the hose. The moment you tuned the dial, flipped the switch, or lifted your boot, the problem didn't get solved. In the conventional sense, it dissolved. It vanished like a mirage when you finally reached the spot it appeared to be. You see that the mountain was just a pile of your own fearful thoughts, or given a false sense of substance by your unwavering attention to it. You gave the ghost its power by believing in it. This is why all the old ways of praying and problem-solving were so exhausting. You were essentially trying to negotiate with a phantom. You were wrestling with a shadow, giving it all your strength and energy, and wondering why you never won. You were trying to use the thinker, the very thing creating the ghost, to make the ghost disappear. It's a closed, inescapable loop. The secret prayer breaks that loop by shifting your attention completely away from the ghost and onto the only reality there is, the flowing, musical, luminous presence of God. You stop feeding the phantom with your fear, and like any illusion, it simply ceases to be. It has no independent life force. The healing wasn't the body fighting a real disease. It was the body returning to its natural state of harmony once the mental interference, the belief in the disease, was lifted. The supply wasn't created out of thin air. It was the ever-present substance of the universe finally becoming visible in your experience once the blockage of the belief in lack was removed. The problem was never the main event. It was just a temporary distortion in the field, a ripple on the surface of a vast, deep, and perfectly still ocean. When you sink beneath the surface, when you go to the depths of your own I am, you find a perfect, unshakable calm. And from that depth, you look up and see that the storm you were so afraid of was only ever happening on the surface. It was real to the senses, but it was a ghost to the spirit that you are. The ultimate problem was the belief that the problem was ultimate.